the day the fire blew up, and my boss drove me up to the loop to drop me off, and the loop trail was already closed, and it was just total smoking through there. And I'm like, I asked my boss, I said, well, he goes, well, you better run. He goes, those are the fires. So I made a pretty good time getting up. You basically couldn't see anything. I met a young ranger on the trail. She was there to sweep the trail, and she asked me if I knew where the fire was, and I said, no, I have no idea. And one thing, as you can tell when you go down the loop, you can look where it burnt. It was not a good place to be in this fire. So we got ourselves up here quite quickly, and my partner, Chris Burke, was up here at that time. And I asked him where the fire was, and he pointed out a flat top, and he goes, it's right there. He goes, we got work to do, drop your pack. We got one a helicopter sling load in here, and they gave us 2 Mark III fire pumps, which are really handy. They fit on a backpack, and they got the gas can that goes along with them. They're pretty much self-contained. And when you guys went to get water, we set one up down there because at that time we had a 1,200-gallon plastic tank up on the hill up here. And we charged this fire pump and let it go because it was pumping water. We left it because we figured the fire was going to get it, because when we put the pump up, the fire crested the hill line down here. And at that time we went down to the campground, and we got down there was people in the campground, they're all pointing at the fire and taking pictures, and the guy goes, man, look, there's a fire right there. You guys know? I said, yeah, we know that. You know? What we need you people to do is leave everything. Take what you got on your back, and we're going to go back up to the chalet. And we got the people moving ahead of us. Chris went and checked the pump again. I went up to the pump house up here, and what we had to do is I had to turn on a series of valves so we could get water to the tank at that time. And the fire really blew up at that point. It tore the door out of my hand up there, and you could just hold your hand out this direction. It was just glowing orange and very, very hot. And I got on my radio, and I said, Chris, where are you? And he goes, I'm on my hands and knees. He had a tool bag on his back, and he was on his hands and knees. He beat me back to the chalet. And what we'd done, they gave us enough hoses. We had 2 large hoses in the front of the chalet, 2 large in the back. We had a small one on the little house I lived in here, and we had 2 on the annex. And we set up another Mark III fire pump right by my house there, because the line at that time was gravity fed down, and with the Mark III right here, we could charge the hoses and really spray some water. Like I said, we had 39 guests here. Well, not all guests, but they included people from the campground, people that were swept from the trail. And we put everybody right here. We found out that 4 of them were volunteer firemen, which is a big help because there were just 2 of us.
Yeah.
So we put them out front on the fire hoses, and we were in the back. Our big concern was there was embers coming down about that big from the fire because the wind was blowing. And as you can tell from the roof, it'd be pretty flammable unless it was wet. So we proceeded to wet everything down the best we could. We also removed any kind of fuel away from the buildings. We pulled all the railings off the chalet. The big thing was propane tanks. As you can see over here, we got some pretty big propane tanks. We put everything down in this valley over here, and we enlisted help of guests, and we had one individual. He was very big, very strong, and very powerful. These tanks weigh anywhere from 85 to 112 pounds, and you know, you're kind of walking them and rolling them down the hill. He was picking them up and tossing them down the hill. He was really enthusiastic. I'm like, God, please, man, don't wing them down the hill. He really did well. He moved a lot of propane, of course, and we got everything away. And what we did is we had people right here in the dining room, and we put tables up against the windows because the wind was 70 plus miles an hour at that time, and it was blowing ash and everything through, you know, these windows and stuff. So we had the best we could, and from past construction projects, I had enough gauze masks for everybody, which really helped, because the air outside was just awful. The sounds you hear either from a tornado or a hurricane, and it was rattling the windows and all that kind of stuff. And it was scary for people, and it was scary as the first fire I'd ever been in. And we were in a pretty good position. Minuteman Aviation overflew us at one time. They had another load for us and they couldn't see us. Chris up at Swift Current Lookout couldn't see us. We were totally smoked out there. She called us on the radio and said, "Where's the fire?" And we couldn't see due to the smoke and the ash and everything else. It was just blowing orange out here at that time. So we put up the best defense we possibly could at that time. We figured we were fairly safe because Granite Park does sit on a knoll. It's a rock building. The roads were wet. We had tables and everything up against the windows, so we figured we had a fairly good chance. And what we thought, the way it had come, we thought it was going to go basically up and over us and down into Bear Valley. And what happened, I don't know why, because the wind was coming directly this direction at us, it turned and went up over Swift Current Pass. It burnt below the fire lookout up there. Chris called us and goes, "Boy, I feel like I'm a steak on a barbecue up here." But there was enough rock up there, she was in no danger, but the fire was burning all the way around her, and at that time they evacuated many Glacier because they could see the fire basically coming down the pass at that time. Once it got dark, we could actually see where the fire was, and it had settled down to a degree, so we told people, we hooked up a propane bottle because people hadn't eaten or had any, relaxation time or anything, and we got everybody fed, and what we told them is go up to rooms. We assigned everybody a room. We had a list of names where everybody was at in case we had to go. And our only escape route would have been the Highline Trail. But it was also burning up Bear Valley at that time, so we weren't sure how long the Highline was going to be open. We told people just go lay down, relax, get this, stay dressed, keep your boots on. And my partner Chris and I, we took turns. One would sit out here and one would sit in the middle of the compound out here, and then we'd switch to keep awake. So we pretty much stayed up all night watching the fire. And this here wasn't too bad because there was a woman right upstairs that every 20 minutes she'd come out to make sure we were still awake. So you were pretty alert out here, and then you'd switch off and she'd come out like a cuckoo clock. "Are you guys still awake?" "Yeah, we're still awake." Go back in and lay down and stuff. And the next morning we got the okay to evacuate the chalet, and we had, the guides were up here then. We had guides in the front and the back, and we had a list. Checked everybody off the list, and they marched them out the Highline Trail, and we stayed. And what we did at that time was we wrapped the chalet, and what it is like big rolls of tin foil. We put them over the windows and everything that we could get. And my buddy Chris flew out that day, and I stayed, and they brought me in a firefighting team from Northern California.
Red band with rust.
And this was underwater here?
All of it, yeah. This is all sedimentary, which means that it was deposited by lakes and oceans. Unbelievable,
this was
isn't
underwater.
it? Yeah, before it was glaciated. Long before it was glaciated. And then it was lifted up. So, I mean, it wasn't originally
was it lifted up
high.
underwater? Was it like a Gulf, like in Yellowstone where they have this?
No, what it was is this is where the plates are colliding. So Yellowstone is close to a hot spot where those plates are colliding. But when the plates hit each other, one goes under and one goes up. So that and we're actually on the subduction plate, but the other one is pushing soils and the deposits and stuff up. The mountains are actually growing and getting taller. Same thing with the Tetons. It's the same action.
I've heard that. I mean, I've heard these mountains are growing.
Yeah. So they're being pushed up by that collision, and then of course during the ice ages, the ice formed and then came down. Same thing happened in Canyon. Grand Canyon was lifted up due to a slightly different tectonic system, but it was lifted up, and the Colorado River just kept cutting down through it as the Colorado Plateau was lifted up. So at the bottom you have rocks that are,
They must have like simulated videos of how this all